When we start our new endeavors, we are in fantasy land. The fantasy is that you have freedom and autonomy and you're the decision maker and you don't have a boss anymore. You're the boss. Well, that's true. The reality also is that you're the IT department, you're the HR department, you're the collections department, you're customer service, you are accounts payable and accounts receivable, you are the bookkeeper, you are all of it. 56.9% of new business owners say that they started a business to be their own boss. 48.8% cite dissatisfaction with corporate America as a driver. I'm Melissa Franks, your host of the Opt-in podcast, and this is where we go from surviving to thriving in business. And today we're going to talk about this generation that we're in where everybody is ready to be their own boss. They just may not know what's in store for them when they make the leap. So who are you exactly? Are you a part of the 56.9% who started a business to be your own boss? Or are you part of the 48.8% that are unhappy with corporate America and want to find a new way? Are you the independent seeker or the burned out escapee? All of us have one that we identify with a little bit more, but maybe you're right in the middle and you say, I am both. I resemble both of them. Today, we're going to break it down and we're going to talk about why people actually leave, the blind spots that you have as a result of the driver, and what to do about it once you get inside of your business so that you can set yourself up for success in the long run. I want to talk about it for a few minutes because a generation ago, people didn't leave. You either inherited a business from your family and that was the business that you worked in, or you went into corporate America and you stayed there for 25, 30, 40 years. You got the gold watch, you got the pension plan, and then you went off and sailed into the sunset. Now, people hop jobs faster than they hop scotch. If you know, you know. If you're my generation, you understand what I'm saying there. But people are moving around like crazy. I review anywhere from the range of 25 to 50 resumes a week across our various clients and our internal hiring that we do. And one trend that is standing out as glaringly obvious is that people are staying at jobs less than 2 years on average. In fact, if I can find somebody that's been at a company longer than 2 years, I'm almost asking, why'd you stay so long? And often it comes down to good culture fit, friends at work, or great opportunity to grow and develop in their career. It's just a reality right now that people are moving around like crazy, and just as fast as people are moving from one company to another, they're also opting out completely of the corporate structure and saying, I'm going to go it alone. And the drivers for that are really only two things. I want to be in charge of my own destiny. I want independence. I want to be my own boss. I want to figure it out on my own. The other is I just can't take it anymore. I cannot work in this environment anymore. I am exhausted. I do not want to live my life this way. There has to be a better way. And both of those points of view lead you to the same place. They lead you to exiting the corporate world and starting something on your own. However, they will present with different blind spots, constraints, and challenges throughout your journey. You see, independent seekers often underestimate how much structure they're walking away from. When you just want freedom, what you fail to understand is that the constraints that you have are actually systems and processes that hold the whole thing together. And without them, independence may not be so shiny. People that are burnt out and they're looking for a way out from that are looking for something different. They're running from something rather than towards a plan. So if you think about it, if you were an escapee from corporate, or the language that I like to use often is a corporate dropout, you don't have a plan. You just know that you don't want to be in the container in the environment that you used to be in. And so you risk creating the problem again that you experienced in the corporate structure. This time it's all going to be on you, so there's no way to escape it. If you don't understand what you don't want to have, you will build it again in a different container and construct. I want to talk to you for a minute about why I left. So those of you that know my story know that I worked inside of big multinational corporations for 25 years. And then it looked like I just decided one day, I just woke up on a sunny morning and said, I'm done, I'm out, I'm going to go work for a startup. That's actually not what happened. Two things were happening simultaneously. One was that I was getting increasingly bored at work. I had an amazing leadership team. I had cultivated and trained and really created a top-notch leadership team, which meant they could do their jobs and they barely needed me. I was bored. And that's the goal, by the way. That's the dream as a C-suite executive, to not have to do things on your own, to have such an amazing team that like you aren't needed. So I achieved it. I got the gold ring, right? And at the exact same time, the organization was dramatically changing in a way that was misaligned with my core values. I brought quite a few things to the forefront and said, we really need to advocate for our employees. We need to consider what's happening out there in the environment landscape. We need to lead with our core values. And I was turned down every chance that would happen. And I had foolishly thought, I've made it to the C-suite and I'm an officer of the company, I can influence these things. And the reality was I couldn't. And I didn't want to be somewhere that wasn't going to stand up for things that were the right and important things to stand up for. And so when you put those two things together, it just was no longer a place that I belonged at all. And so I left and I went to a startup where I thought, let's build again. Now, I wasn't running. I wasn't burnt out. I wasn't running from anything, but I was looking for a way to create the world and environment that I wanted. The blind spot that I had was that I had built my entire life with a ton of humans and a ton of structure and a ton of experts I could rely on. And so all of a sudden when it became me, plus like one other person, all of that weight sat with me. And I didn't know everything. And I am not a highly structured person. In fact, I love to build stuff. So I like to try stuff and fix stuff. And if it breaks, oh well, and let's take some risk and let's figure it out later. I'm not the steady Eddie, like, let's do it over and over and over again and tinker and iterate. That's not me. And so I knew that going into this, as much as I wanted the independence, I was going to have to either pair myself with somebody that had all the strengths that I didn't, or I was going to have to be really intentional to stay on top of those blind spots so I didn't create a mess everywhere I went. And I've got to tell you that those 9 months in the startup, it was really, really hard for me because I didn't know how to create order in the right way because I had been out of practice. When I went to start my own business, it was quite a different situation because the business moved slower. It was everything that I could hold, and then it was a little bit more, and then I started to add people. And so I was able to navigate my blind spot in a new and different way. But what I had was experience. I had built things before, and I had knowledge because I was intentionally making a step in a different direction. If you are running from burnout or you're just desperate for independence and you don't stop and build the plan, you will create challenging environments for yourself and wreak havoc on the stability of the thing that you're building. So when we think about leaving, heck, when we do leave and we start our new endeavors, we are in fantasy land. The fantasy is that you have freedom and autonomy and you're the decision maker and you don't have a boss anymore. You're the boss. Well, that's true. The reality also is that you're the IT department, you're the HR department, you're the collections department, you're customer service, you are accounts payable and accounts receivable, you are the bookkeeper, you are all of it. Being your own boss does not remove management. Being your own boss does not remove checks and balances. Being your own boss does not remove the need to have controls and systems and processes in place. It just means that you're managing yourself. And friends, managing yourself in the business context is harder for most people than managing others. It is much easier to be able to observe what somebody is doing and tell them what to do and not to do than for you to have self-awareness around what you are and are not doing and how you are and are not spending your time and communicate to yourself what you should be doing. It is incredibly hard to create structure for yourself if you are an unstructured human. You have to have an identity shift. You have to simultaneously hold the capacity to be the doer and the operator. And what became very interesting to me, and we talk about this a lot because I have a hard time context switching, is Often my team goes, we need to hire one of our COOs to be a COO for the business. And what that means is we need somebody to hold the container to make sure everything is being taken care of, to make sure all of the structures are in place and the people are being managed and we're being methodical and intentional about what we're doing. When I'm in owner mode, I'm in visionary, let's build stuff. What if we do this new thing? What if we go over here? The famous story that the team likes to tell is when I was in owner mode, in December, I decided that we were going to get a trade show booth this April. The calendar was clear, the price was right. And so I signed a contract and I paid. And then the closer we got to the trade show and the more planning we were doing, the more the expenses racked up, the more unease we started to feel because none of us knew what we were doing. And we ended up pulling the plug. We ended up eating the cost of the trade show because at the end of the day, I got all excited and in visionary and owner mode, and I didn't move into operator mode, which is what a good COO would have done, and said, hey, how are we going to get all this done? Do you know what it takes to do a trade show situation? Can we think this through? Have we built a budget? Can we afford it? None of that happened. And I, by trade, am an operator. And so I'm sharing this with you because it is so easy for you to stay in that owner shift, this like, I've got all the ideas, I've got all the vision, I've got all blah, 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 blah. And you're not thinking about the doing and the implementation and what that's going to cause and how all of that's going to work inside of your business. So what you dream is that you have autonomy and you're able to come up with ideas and do everything on your own. What you forget, what you fail to realize or acknowledge is how much weight there is with actually having to do it and do it again and be consistent and deliver and do it in the right way. That is heavy. It's unsexy. Most of the time it's not fun, and it's necessary to have a viable, stable, scalable business over time. So now that you're running the thing, the reality is that it's pretty dang lonely. You have to make all the decisions. There's nobody to escalate to. There's no corner office for you to walk into and be like, we have a mess on our hands. We have people that aren't paying us. We've had a high return rate. There's nobody to take that to. You have to hold it all. Your priorities are constantly shifting. One moment you're doing the work and the next minute you're building the system that does the work. You feel like you're getting pushed and pulled in multiple directions. Am I supposed to be doing or am I supposed to be building? And when should I clock in and clock out of either role? And what will end up happening over time is that you will get into a place where you're operating like an employee inside of your business. You aren't operating like the owner of the business. Now, what does that look like? When you are operating like the employee in your business, it means that you're doing all of the work, that you don't delegate anything, that you carry the weight all on your own, and that you are exhausted. Often, clients come to us, and it is easy for us to quickly tell that they are operating as an employee in their business because they have not delegated decisions to the people that work for them. They are exhausted from having to make all of the decisions all of the time, and everything, all the systems, how the business runs, it's all stuck in their head. What ends up happening when you act like an employee is that you're not acting like a leader. You are literally the operating system of the business. If you were not there, the business would not run. And you are carrying the weight of the whole thing. This can go on for much longer than you think. You may even have a team of 3, 5, 7, 10 people, and you may still be operating like an employee because everything runs through you. Are you the last one to check and sign off on things? Are you the one that's confirming all of the emails? Do you look at all of the copy? Do you review all of the proposals? Are you the one that's still updating the website? Think about all of the things that you do. Think about how everything happens in the business. And if you have a role to play in all of it and you have people working for you, you're still operating like an employee. You are not operating like the owner. You are not operating like the operator. And that is incredibly dangerous to the growth and stability of your business, because if you are integral in everything, it means you can step away from nothing. And if you can step away from nothing, you cannot take a vacation, you cannot get sick, you cannot have a day off. You cannot have a family member that needs you to not be at work. The business stops moving when you do. And that is the worst position for you to be in. So I want you to consider your identity. Are you an employee? Are you an owner? Are you somewhere in between? Do you context switch based on the size of your business? Who are you and how are you showing up when the business isn't growing as fast as you hoped? Is your sense of self tangled up in the success of the business? Is your happiness tied to your revenue number or your bank account balance? Really dig in to who you are when you are running the business and ask yourself, I was seeking independence, but have I traded independence for handcuffs? What is the trade-off that I have now that I am running this business, now that I own this business from when I worked inside of the corporate world? And more importantly, has your business become your identity? If you are one of those folks that left corporate because you were very burnt out, and now the only way that you can communicate who you are is by the lens of the business, didn't you just change one burnt out situation for another? Did things actually get better? Is your life experience actually improved? See, the thing with owning a business is that you get to choose. You do have the independence. You get to choose how you show up and what you do and what you don't do and how it works. I often say to the business owners that we work with that you have the ability at any given time to say that you'll never do something again. Assuming that you have revenue and you're making money and your business is growing, you have the ability to wake up on a Monday and say, I am never responding to another customer support email again. I'm just not. I'm going to hire somebody else to do it. I'm never going to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to do it. Puts me in a bad mood, makes me feel horrible, and I'm just not going to do it. That is amazing independence. If you were working in corporate, you would have never been able to do that. Am I right? Your job would have been your job, and if you didn't like a part of your job, too bad, go work somewhere else. Am I right? You have the ability to create the environment that you want, but you have to understand where your blind spots are. If you were seeking independence and you did so without a plan, then the opportunity for you now is to say, how can I become independent from the thing that I built? How can I remove and extricate myself from the thing that I built? And if you were escaping burnout and you ran out of the building without a plan, ask yourself how exhausted you are now, and then build a plan to stop being so exhausted. It's never too late to make a change, but we're in this environment where everybody's decided that they want to start a business and be their own boss because corporate America is so big and so bad. Well, you know what corporate America allows you to do? Show up at 8 and leave at 5 and clock out and not think about work again until the next morning. And you know what else corporate America does? Is it guarantees that every 2 weeks you're going to get the same paycheck. It guarantees that you're going to be able to pay your bills and you're going to be able to have money for food and you're going to be able to live a good life. Ish, right? You may not be thrilled with your salary. You may not love your job. You may not like the people you work with, but you know what? It does provide you consistency and stability. So if you decide to take the leap, if you decide it's grass is greener, I want to be my own boss, I want to start my own thing, then my call to action to you is to be clear around that identity and who you want to be and how you want to spend your time. Just today, I was recording a radio interview with a host, and he asked me a question very specific to this topic. And he asked me, what's the first thing that we do when we start working with our clients? And the very first thing that we do is we say, what's all it for? What's all of it for? What's the end game? What are we working towards? And if they give me a revenue goal, I say, try again. If they give me, I want to have a team of 100, I say, try again. I want to know what life they are working for. Because the reality is that you said you wanted to be your own boss, not because you just wanted to be in charge, but because you had a vision, you had a dream of being, of living in a certain way. So what is that? Why are we making all these sacrifices? Why are we working so hard? Why are we doing all these things? What's the end game? You know, that same host called me a millionaire a few minutes after that. And I thought, nobody's actually called me that out loud before. And, you know, it's not true. The business is worth whatever it's worth, a couple of $1 million at this point. I'm not talking valuation. I'm just talking cash in hand. And that was the first time anybody had ever called me that. And it was so funny because I don't identify that way, like at all. And I didn't even really know how to respond or what that meant. But what I do know with clarity is what I am working towards. What I do know with clarity is the life that I want. What I do know with clarity is what freedom means to me and for my children. And so all of the hard work that I do, all of the frustration that I have, because friends, owning a business is frustrating, all of the setbacks and all of the wins are all to propel me towards that vision and goal. And by the way, that will change. It has already changed for me numerous times, but you have to know where you're headed. So when I ask you who you are you who you hoped you would be? Is the business what you hoped it would be? What's your sense of self? I want you to really consider, if you decided to be your own boss and you decided to do all this hard work, why? For what? And so, you know, if you're on this journey and you've been listening to this podcast, now you might be kind of thinking, you know, I did run from the building. I ran from the corporate building. I didn't really have a plan. I just knew that I needed something different. I just knew I couldn't stay inside of the corporate structure anymore, and I just wanted to risk it all. So maybe you've been doing this for a while. Maybe you've been doing this for a year, 3 years, 10 years, 15 years. We're all at a different place in our journey. So I want you to ask yourself a few questions. And before I give you those, I also want to say to you, maybe it's a bit controversial. I don't believe in defining your why. I think it's nonsense. Maybe my question that I ask is similar to your why, but it just never resonated with me. I know that it's a thing. I know Simon Sinek coined it. I know everybody talks about it. Emma Greed's now talking a ton about it too. I just think that it's bullshit. I think that it's not quite real. I feel like it's an artificial construct, just kind of like figuring out your purpose. I think that we can get so caught up in the definition of the thing that we don't get to the doing. And so the questions that I want you to ask yourself today, ask yourself 2 years from now, ask yourself on repeat over and over and over again are quite simple. I want you to ask yourself that question. What are we working towards? What's the goal? Who will I be with when I reach it? Where will we physically be? What will our life be like? What will we be doing? How will we spend our time? What's happening with my business? What am I working towards? And then I want you to ask yourself, what work do I want to do that brings me joy? And get really clear on how much of your time is spent with that versus the rest of it. Set a goal for how much of your day should be in that joyful, productive place. We'll all never get to 100%, but if today, right now, you hate your business and you are not in love with it at all, and you're like, I just want one day a week where I really enjoy what I'm doing, work towards that. It is possible to love what you do and to have a business that is thriving. And then the last question that I want you to ask is, what is your legacy going to be? This is a question I have been asking myself from maybe the beginning of time. As soon as I started having children, my legacy was very, very clear when I was in the corporate world. My legacy was that when my children one day were out of college and in their jobs, and they walked into a room and they knew no one, they would assume the woman was in charge. Because their whole life, they watched their mom be in charge and be the one that people sought out for help and solutions and leadership and advice. And so I wanted to be able to shift the paradigm just a little, that at least my 3 sons would bring into a corporation the culture and the mindset that women lead. Today, that legacy is still incredibly important to me. But today, that legacy has become enhanced by the practical reality that I want them to not only carry that with them, I want them to carry with themselves that women can build, and women can reinvent, and women can pivot, women can thrive and be prosperous and live incredibly rich, valuable, effective lives. And I am leading by example. I am teaching them what it is like to be in service to others and still make a profit. I'm teaching them what it's like to understand trade-offs, that as much as I own my own business and I make my own schedule, I still work my butt off all of the time. And I'm teaching them to believe in their capabilities and to lead with their strengths so that they can thrive as adults. So I want you to ask yourself those questions. I want you to ask them as frequently as you need to stay tied to what you're really working through. And I want you to consider spending a little bit of time in evaluating the work that you do in your business right now and identify how much time you're spending working as an employee versus how much time you're spent working as the owner, and whether you're okay with that balance or not. Independence is not the absence of structure. It's the responsibility of building your own. Burnout doesn't get solved by leaving a job. It gets solved by building something you don't need to escape from. So as you were going about your journey, keep those things in mind. And if this resonated with you at all, please share this with somebody in your life that you think it would be helpful for as well. Until next time, friends, please know that you are wise and you are strong and you are capable, and I believe in you.